We'll call the Truth and Taxation meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, just let the record reflect that all six directors are present. If you look at the agenda, it does talk about me being in North Carolina. Obviously, I'm not in North Carolina because of the rescheduled meeting, so. So with that, we will move right into the Truth and Taxation public hearing.
Perfect. I'm up. You guys will be there to hear from the end of the name. Chair Gerards, did I say your name correctly? Gerards.
Members
Members of the board, Superintendent Weirkamp. I am Scott Ryan, Business Manager for Royalton School District. I can take these off now so I can see my presentation, but we are here tonight to talk about the Truth and Taxation public meeting for the 2022 payable 23 meeting. If you can go to the next slide, I don't know who's running this. W. All right, perfect. So truth and taxation law. So some of this I am going to read verbatim. It is required, but the Minnesota's truth and taxation law requires that cities, counties, and school districts follow the certain steps before adopting a tax levy for the following year. The law requires a mailed notice to each property owner in the county, which describes the tax levies proposed by the city, county, and school district, and what percent increase, decrease such a levy would mean in dollars. I'm going to just stop right there and pause for a second. So you guys all get those property tax reports, and I saw that mine this year and it looks different. On that section that has your city, township, county, and then your home value. So those come out before we have this meeting. So on that, you're going to see like, you know, it will say a percentage on there for the school, but because we levy at the max, that has to be done by September 30th. So much changes between September 30th and tonight when we're having this meeting. So what that means is that, you know, you might get calls as board members or superintendent, you might get calls from the public asking, why is this going up this much? Well, just, you know, say, hey, just please hang on. You know, we have a lot that's happening between now and the time we certify this. So, and a quick little story on that. I'll save that for later, but you guys all understand that? How
When
that
do we
works?
certify? April?
So we do the, initial portion by September 30th, has to be by MDE.
Yeah,
And then tonight we certify.
tonight.
Yeah,
When do we decide what we're actually gonna levy?
tonight.
Tonight, all right.
Yeah, tonight.
I was thinking it was further in the future.
No. And this is to be interactive too, so please ask questions as they come up. All right. So the school districts are required to hold a single meeting, which we're here tonight to do. And then as I just said, the public is allowed to speak in the budget and the levies discussed. So the meeting may be part of the regular scheduled meeting, but must occur after 6 p.m. So that's why we start at 6:05. And then the meeting also has to take place between November 25th and December 27th, which we're obviously doing tonight as well. So next slide, please, Michelle. All right, so requirements of the taxation public meeting. We need to discuss the property tax levies. We need to also discuss the current budget, and then public must be given a reasonable amount of time to comment on the proposed property tax levy. Next slide, please. And then obviously the statutes are on here too, so those are there. If you guys ever want to look those up, you guys can certainly do that. So points to remember that revenue formulas are set by the state legislature, except for voter approved referendums. We don't like to say that word here in Royalton anymore, or just about any district, but it is required to remember that. So local levy and state aid mix are set by the state legislature, and also an increase to local taxes does not necessarily mean an increase in revenues for the school district. Next slide, please. All right, so this slide, I'm just going to take a moment and just kind of give, you know, sometimes we have more public here, but this is a great slide because it shows at any given time what the school is working with and Superintendent Weirkamp is working with. So right now, if you just kind of follow the slide to calendar 2022 and you slid down on December, I even think that audit yellow bar there should be bumped out one more month, but on the right-hand side, you have your school years. So right now, we are working across 3 different school years. We're obviously in the actual school year, students and teachers, everybody's are here. And then the levy portion we're talking about tonight And then the audit just wrapped up. We had that meeting, but we still have to file with the state. When you get our financial records off to the newspaper and everything like that. So we're always dealing with at least 2 different school years, more likely 3. Any questions on that?
On top of COVID money and.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Those are very.
It's a beautiful chart.
You know,
Right? So when teachers come and ask me, well, what's my budget? I'm still like, I'm back in 2021.
Right.
You know?
It's awesome to see that. I mean, it really is good to look at.
No, it is.
it explains why it seems like we just did this, because we did.
Exactly, and then some of the rehash about the audit too comes out in this presentation as well, because we're
Right.
required to talk about it. So next slide, please, Michelle. All right, so those are the rules, and then now we're gonna go into the current school year, and I always like to do an overview of the funds that we have. So if you go on to the next slide. All right, so most of you guys know from being on the board, you guys have to do the math rule and all that. So the general fund, we have 5 different funds in the district. We have our general fund, which goes to funding those particular items. Next slide, Michelle, and then we have Fund 2, which is our food service. And then Fund 4, which is our community ed service. And then if we're in construction, we have our construction Fund 6. And then lastly, our Fund 7, which is our debt service. So those are your bonds listed that you guys had levied for back in 2015. And then you guys had construction projects. So those are the current bonds that we have for Royalton from that the public or taxpayers are paying down. So more on that in just a little bit. All right, so school district. So the column on your left, the actual, that is from the from the financial statements that you heard the auditors present. And then we have our budget and then the percent change. So one big one sticks out to me is that food service.
Mhm.
Well, if you remember from last year, everybody was under that summer food service program. So everybody was getting reimbursed higher rates than what we were actually than what we were charging prior. And so we tried to reflect that and try to guess what that's going to be based on what it was 2 years ago. So that number can fluctuate, but we try to reduce that revenue going into this year, and that's why. All right, so that's why you see that biggest change there. But the general fund, you can see relatively stays the same. Community service, we're pretty close, and I'm guessing with the additional classes we added for Royalton, that's going to be higher than what I budgeted for. And then lastly, the debt service. So that relatively stays close as the same. So if you can go down next slide, please, Michelle. All right, so where do our revenues come from? Well, you see a big chunk there, and hopefully you can see that's pretty small, but it says 83%. So 83% is from the state. So that's why Dr. Weirkamp and I, we're always talking about enrollment, and we talk about enrollment all the time, because what our enrollment is, that drives that state aid funding. And then the fed rates were a little bit higher than we have been in the past, just because of the fact of the CARES funding, ESSER year, and then local taxes have jumped up in recent last year because things opening back up from COVID. Sporting events, that's your other local. Next slide, please. All right, so if we're going to talk about revenues, we're going to talk about expenditures. Same thing. Column is the actual is the audit, the budget, and the percent change. Across the board, there's general fund actual to the budget. We're obviously being conservative as a board and district, being conservative with the budget, and also trying to reflect of taking out the expenditures that we had to spend for the CARES funds. So we had those one-time funds that we try to spend those down and reflect that that money is being used for the betterment of the students. And then food service also reflecting that the actual that's going to be going down as well. And then community service. And lastly, the debt service. We don't have any construction going on right now. So hopefully not for a while. The facilities are beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, next slide, please. All right, so how are the general fund dollars being spent? So this does come up in the public quite a bit. Well, you guys are spending a lot on administration. Well, no, if you look at the slide and you kind of box in all the different percentages, you can see the majority of our costs are going to the classroom and teaching the students. So the district support services, regular instruction, vocational, SPED, instructional support service, pupil support, all those, that section right there, that adds up, let's see, 46, 56, let's call it 70% of our expenditures are going for that purpose. And that was not here, by the way, that was elsewhere. So don't take that for what it is. So next slide. I hear that a lot though.
I think a good administration will cover their own costs.
Yeah, I agree, right? What do your expenditures pay for? So those two slides right there, employee benefits, 15.8%, salary and wages, 57.2. So you can, this slide just does a better job of showing what all that is going into. And then the purchase services and supplies, materials, capital expenditures and debt service. So when districts get into financial trouble, where do you look, right? Where do you look? And that's why we, Dr. Weirkamp and I, we really want to keep an eye on enrollment, class levels, because that's where your biggest expenditure goes. We want to stay away from, the classroom as far as possible. But when you look at supplies and materials, there's not a lot there that you can actually recoup, right? So next slide, please.
Hey.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with an expanding enrollment, that's really tough because you have to keep on adding things to
Right.
Teachers, classrooms.
without,
Unless it's nicely equitably spread across your district. Then what can happen is you don't necessarily have to increase as much staff. You may have a few little bit of your
offerings. is probably
supplies
what
and
I'm
such,
thinking.
maybe. Yeah, it's nice, like our growth is happening pretty well.
Yeah,
We're not,
Distributed, it's not like it's all
Yeah.
preschool.
yeah,
right,
right.
or all of a sudden you just had an influx of sixth graders only from
Right.
neighboring
That
district. And I can.
You can.
Please.
That's quite interesting. So we always talk about the class sizes and that's where, Dr. Weirkamp would admit, like, I'm lost, that's her world. The classroom and everything like that. Finances, I can talk to them.
Because you see it as a number and
Exactly.
it's broken down.
Yeah, because a lot of districts go through that kind of bubble period, like, we're right there, but do we add or don't we add? But then a lot depends on your fund balance and royalty being in great financial shape. So if we are found ourselves in that bubble situation, I could recommend Dr. Weirkamp to make that change, knowing if we see the projection going further for enrollment. But then, obviously, I can recommend that to her, but. if
And
she
class
has plans-
dynamics play huge role in things, so you might have, one grade level that's starting to expand a little bit, and somebody say, do we need to add a section? Well, let's talk about what that means. How big really is it? What's happening in that classroom? What are the dynamics of that classroom? That type of thing, and that helps you in your decision making, isn't just, oh, I have 10 new students, therefore I'm gonna add a section. And now I'm gonna take sections of 18 and make them 14. Wow, is that cost effective? Probably not, but I could spread those 10 kids out across 3 sections, and now I might have 21 in a class, but that's manageable, especially once you get up into those upper grades. So those are the things you have to take into consideration, because you generally will have your lowest class sizes at your youngest ages, if you have that option. So for example, you get in high school, you can oftentimes have a class sitting of 32 kids. You want that kindergarten? Probably not. So that's kind of what we manage.
We're on the opposite end, of going the other way, then I tried to tell my principals, hey, let's curtail the spending a little bit, and then see where we're at the end of the year. So,
Yeah, you could have somebody in high school saying, we're gonna offer this great elective, this is wonderful, and you have 7 kids enroll in that class. That's not sustainable over time. So either you give it some time to build, but if it doesn't build, that might not be an elective you want to continue offering.
Right.
And that's where the nuances come in with all of that conversation on how you handle class size and enrollment and all of
And
that.
staff is teaching it.
Right.
Yeah, next slide, this is a great question, thank you, by the way. All right, so, direct from our audit, you guys just saw this at the last board meeting. But our unassigned currently at 1.9 million, assigned 270,000, safe schools 74,000, which we did end up spending some of that. And we will again this year. Operating capital, student activities, long-term facility maintenance, non-spendable. I know you guys already went through that, so I don't need to spend much time on that. If you don't have any questions, I'd say let's move on to the next slide. All right, so everything we talked about at the beginning, what's required, we talked about the requirements, the laws around it, and now we're going to talk about the actual levy itself. So next slide, please. So again, the school district tax levy must be either set by state formula or by voter approved. Next slide, please. All right, so factors impacting tax change, issues driven by legislative decisions, change in sales ratio impacting I always get that word wrong, but it's net tax capacity that, it's not the average, it's
And annualized, no,
Yeah,
average net. testing.
I think it's average. Dave, look that up for me, please. They in NTC, but it's like average net tax capacity. You guys will see that on your reports, but change in tax capacity lease structure, laws mandating code compliance, health and safety in buildings, and then issues determined by district voters. So approved building bond issue. We're not obviously doing that. Voter approved excess levy referendum. We don't have an operating capital. Good there. Next slide. All right, so that's a big one, the top one. So inflationary pressure on real estate market. Quick story on this. I did have somebody call me in another district. And he was screaming at me that my taxes are going up so much. I paid $800 last year. I'm paying $4,000 this year. Why? And I said, well, did anything change? He said, I built a house. I'm like, this conversation is done, right? So he built on his property and didn't think his taxes would go up. So if you do improvements to your houses, that's obviously gonna raise the value of your house, and therefore your taxes go up. Now, what's happened a lot here in the last, year or two is that a lot of our house values went up without even doing anything to it. So therefore our taxes are going up with that regard. So abatements and then property improvements, we just discussed that, and then change in individual assessed market value. Again, that kind of falls with the top one as well. Again, if you didn't do anything to your house, the value still went up. And then also reclassifying your property. Next slide, please. Some of these do get redundant. All right. So how is our levy going to be spent? This slide is interesting from year to year. If you've been here for a while, you'll kind of see as we pass the referendum, you're going to see more go to your debt service. And then it's gonna flip, then it's gonna show more in the percentage going for the general fund. Somebody may say, well, how come we spent 32% on our general fund out of our levy last year, and now we're spending 35 next year? Well, it's because our debt service went down. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. Or mean that taxes are going up quite a bit. So 32% go to general fund, 2% go to community ed, 66% are going to pay off those bonds that I previously showed on
Hey,
this
Scott,
slide.
question on this one. So, and I think this is the answer I've gotten before, right? That 66%, the debt service,
Yeah.
we have to levy for that. I mean, there's,
Well, that's voter approved referendum.
right.
Yeah,
So really, the only thing that, is that 34% there is really what we're
right,
talking about.
right.
Yeah.
Yep, and as those bonds get paid off, then.
It gets higher, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
So once that bond, or if you guys had zero bonds, then we'd have, 98 and 2. And that's why I say that percentage can go up, but from the board members as the public may sometimes ask you, well, why is this 98% when 3 years ago it was 32%? Well, it's because our bond got paid off, now it's all going there, but it's less money, right?
And as that maybe switches, then you could have that discussion about whether do you wanna do the full, right? I mean, so.
Do you guys want, is there a need, Our class is increasing, do we need more space? I mean, there's lots of different things that can be brought to the board. But as of right now, I mean, I walk around this place, is like I said, it's gorgeous, beautiful. Next slide, please. All right, so how do we compare to last year's levy? Literally, as board members, I just want you to know that this, I talked about, yeah, she's laughing because I'm frantically like sweating in my office over there. I went to go print these off for Michelle to have the clerk sign tonight, and I see that our levy changed. Tonight. So, this was 2.6, or, 2,361,000, now we're at 2,358,000.
So this morning at finance, at noon at finance, we said 2.75% increase, now at 2.61.
Yeah.
Is
Maybe
it
should
10
we-
after 5 or 2?
Yeah, right.
If we wait longer, will it go
Yeah.
down?
I think we do this at 7:05.
Oh, I think so.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Cause tonight, when we approve it, that's where it stays at, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and so if MDE is off, then what they'll do is that, let's say we were supposed to get that $3,000, then we'll get an adjustment for next year. But, so I mean, $3,000 on 2.3 million, I'm not worried about it. That's an adjustment next year. If we're hurting for $3,000, then we have other problems, and
Yeah.
we'd be talking about operating referendum and all that, which we're not. So, so page 21, page 22, 22, page 23, you can see the differences there. 54,000 for the general fund, community service, and then the debt redemption or paying off those bonds. So 2.61%. I have seen double digits in a lot of districts this year. due to those inflationary, reasons for the housing market, so 2.61, that's awesome. I just do, as I told, Chair Gerard.
Scared.
Garrett's. Well, you always tell me Marine, so I.
That's right, so I,
You know,
I wrote it down, Marine.
right, yeah, oh, perfect, yeah, I'll have to do the thing. So one thing I just want to point out, so with our increased ADMs, you know, there is the $724 that is, the board passes without needing the taxpayers' approval for. With the increased ADMs, we'll probably have that additional money next year come on our levy. Not a bad thing, as our ADMs increase and people want to be in Royalton, that's why. So it's a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing, but as you can see on 2.3 million, just lowering that by 3,000, we went from 2.75 to 2.61. So next year, who knows? I mean, things can change, maybe housing goes down. But I would anticipate that we'll see an increase next year, but it still won't be substantial. That's just my crystal ball looking ahead in the future. I can be completely wrong. My wife would tell me I am all the time. So next slide, please. Unless any questions on that. All right. So what are the main variables that cause property tax increases? I feel like this is redundant. I don't need to go over this again unless you guys want me to. It's a lot of the same thing, talking about the changes in the market values, change of property tax credits, vote approved referendums. Just want to reiterate.
And your county
Yeah, so there's-
taxes and who don't ask for voter approval, and they raise your taxes. And the cities,
and they don't have to.
so, correct, so just,
Township.
there's not the parity there. For
Right.
public entities, that's there's not, and so just point that out, that those entities often change your property tax values. Far differently than what a school district does, school districts has very low impact in regard to the rest of them.
Exactly. So the three things that make up your property tax, city, township, county, and then the school. City, township, and the county, they do not have to ask for, they don't have to come to the board.
don't
and-
come.
They don't, yeah.
Let's just say it that way.
They don't.
come
So
to
what
public
happens
hearing.
sometimes in board meetings is that when they're mad at the county or, you know, the city or township, they come to the school board meeting and they complain about it, right? Even though we're at 2.6%, they'll come and complain to us, but that's okay, you know, that's what we're here for. We're here educating the kids and that's what this meeting's here for. So next slide, please. All right, I don't think I need to go over this again, redundant. Next slide, please. All right, so whereas pursuant to Minnesota statutes, the school board of Royalton School District, Royalton, Minnesota is authorized to make the following proposed tax levies for general purposes. We showed these amounts, but the 740,000 belong to the general fund, 46,000 to the ed, and then the debt service of 1.5. And then we do have a resolution tonight, but that'll be part of the board meeting. This is my last slide. I went over 12 minutes. I didn't do it.
I asked to make.
Yeah, we made sure.
Yeah, that's all right. Any questions before? No?
Could you talk about, just because we haven't for, I don't know, a year, talk about the difference in what we get levy with the state aid versus in each group of those levy dollars?
The equalization,
Yeah. So you're talking about the state revenues versus local?
Mhm.
Yeah, so if you go back up to my slide, Michelle, and show the different percentages of what we have. Yeah, it's gonna be a pie chart there. Keep going. So right there, so where do our revenues come from? So if you can scroll just, there you go. All right, so 83% state, and then our local taxes is 6.9%. Off of our total budget.
but if you wanna talk about when we levy for some, we get additional state aid that if we didn't levy for, we would lose that state aid. You wanna talk about those different components?
And you're talking about the 724?
The 424 and the 300, that's what's.
Oh, sure, yeah. So for every student that we have, we can again levy without going to the public for approval, which is $724, and there is not an inflationary factor on that either. But $724 times the ADMs that we have, and that goes off of the 23-24 adjusted numbers. So the adjusted pupil units, that is you know, 7 through 12, we get 1.2. So most of the ADMs we have are annual daily memberships is what they're called, are 1. So we would get, say, between $7,000 and $10,000, and then anything from 7 through 12, we get 1.2. But then that's just the state funding, so then the $724 local optional. That's what we levy for without having the approval. Hope I'm answering your question, but $724 is the number.
Of that, there's two different levies that we levy. First one is $424, which is approximately 70% state equity dollars. And then $300 is about 35%, 34.13, something like that it is.
And
So
then,
if we don't levy them, we lose those dollars and our.
And our state aid goes down.
Yeah,
That's the key part of it, is you lose state aid, and I think that's trying to get at Ryan for the
Right.
public, right? Is that we would lose state aid if we didn't levy for that, so it's causes you twofold of ovation.
it's the only thing that they've given us since I've been on the board that starts to get us something that some of the other schools don't get.
well, in every school I work with, they levy for that
They
724.
have,
Yeah, the 724, but I mean, some districts do have an operating referendum. But, you know, you try to stay away from that as much as you possibly can.
pretty proud that we don't have one.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I mean,
It's just that geos are very small
at-
number of,
look at what we've done
Yeah.
without it.
well, this was.
Right.
This was still.
This is, but I mean,
it's
look
just
at the classrooms, look at, yeah, it's. There's some schools that aren't running, that have a big bomb or referendum that aren't
Right.
running near what we are, and you just wonder, well, throwing more money at it, is that gonna help, So,
Yeah, they'd probably argue though, some of those districts are running into very different issues than what we would face here.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
those revenues are necessary in order to function.
and we're not them.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions? All right, perfect.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes, thank you. But he's tripping.
So do I check one more time for public
Yes.
input?
That would be awesome.
Anybody from the public have any questions on the truth and taxation? For Scott or Dave? Yeah. Last call? All right. Then I believe I can accept a motion to adjourn the truth and taxation.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion was made by Director Lang and seconded by Director Hackett. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of adjournment at 6:33, say aye. Aye, opposed, abstained, motion carries 5-0. Truth and taxation hearing is adjourned.
60.
6-0, I'm sorry.
We don't have to open the meeting up to amended, do we?
You're funny.
We're done 5-0. All right, I will call the regular meeting to order. Roll call. All directors are present, and again, I will refer back to the agenda. You can see because we were forced to move last week's meeting to this week. I am no longer in North Carolina, so all directors are here and present in Royalton. I do not have board chair comments. So we will move into approval of the agenda. Director Bauman.
Okay, I would like to amend the agenda to include 9C for resolution for establishing combined polling places.
Okay.
And then 9D for outgoing board members recognition goodbye.
That'll be 9C and 9D.
Yes.
You're also going to make a motion to approve that amended agenda.
Yes, then I'll motion to approve the
Okay.
amended agenda.
A second.
Motion was made by Director Bauman to approve the amended agenda, seconded by Director Hofstad. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries 6-0. We'll move into number 5, appreciation, recognition, and presentation.
Chairperson Garrett's and Superintendent Werkamp and board members, good evening. And I'm going to be recognizing our elementary office staff for their outstanding work. That's Christy Haslin and Dawn Hofstad. Christy might be with us online. Dawn is right there. And we just have a great team together. We really enjoy working with each other. They're very committed. Their communication with parents, staff, care for the students is just great. And we like to kid each other, but keep each other, mostly them kidding me. But always looking forward and willing to change things and adapt. So Dawn is a real go-getter, and our attendance record is really good, and Christy really stays on the parents with the attendance, so very kind, but push over, and that's what we need in that spot. So there's not a day that I come to work just not feeling really good, and just very thankful for their support. And everybody knows how important it is to work as a team. When you have 2 great team members, it makes a big difference. They're smart, good, like I said, willing to learn, willing to change, and it's just great. So thank you very much.
Members of the board, Superintendent Werkamp, I am also here recognizing the high school office staff, Robin Barkowitz, Amy Casella, and Don Tull. I will echo what Phil said. This is the inner team. There are so many things that are going on in the school district in any given day. And these guys know all of it. I mean, they kind of kid around as the true boss. Don is kind of the teaser is the true boss of the building. She knows what's happening all the time, what's going on. Great rapport with students, all of our secretaries, great rapport with students, with staff. It's a fun group. We openly share ideas together. When they disagree with me, they are good at letting me know, which I do appreciate. I like when you can have that communication when we are all working to do the best we can for kids and for the school district. I appreciate that open communication, but the amount of information, phone calls, visitors, 550 students, 60 staff, lunches, they keep the ball rolling on a day-to-day basis and untie a lot of knots and keep us going in the right direction. So I have just been incredibly impressed with them over the years. They continue to grow in their positions, and I wake up in the morning and I am very thankful for the team that I work with, and they are very deserving of this recognition. So congratulations.
I'd like to echo too what the principals have stated here tonight, that without this staff, the secretaries that are running these buildings, honestly, things would not be as smooth as they are. And as the person who's the responsible authority for the district, when I know that things that they're responsible for that have to get reported to MDE get reported accurately and on time, my stress level just, and so it's lovely to be in a district, and they're not always this way. It's lovely to be in a district where I don't have to worry about that. And we're really good at approaching things as a team. So if we don't know something, we'll just go figure it out. We'll just ask lots of questions, and they'll look into things for me, and they'll come back with different ideas of, well, what if we ordered from here? I think we could save some money doing it this way. They have the district's best interests at heart all the time. And so that's just really, really important to us to function well as a team. And I just want to thank all of you for that. That's very important.
Thank you.
We should take pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I tried. Yeah.
It's probably to their head.
I think the other. the people that everyone wants to see should be in
Joel, do
the,
you have to be in there? Yep, Joel.
Don, you guys should.
Come on over here. You can't be the only one.
They're gonna see me.
They see us.
They blend right into this forest.
There you go, Tara. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Make a point.
If she's used to get cardboard cut out of the board member.
Yeah, really. It's served here. There you go, that's it.
Thanks, ladies.
Like, little
See you,
Christmas hats on us, like,
Yeah.
Christmas time, that's all I have.
Yeah, still love it. They were so cute.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Happy holidays. Thank you.
We will move to agenda item 6, recognition of citizens for input purposes. Just a reminder, if you do want to address the board, please keep it towards topics on the agenda. Keep it under 5 minutes, and also make sure you respect the board and don't call out or wage allegations against employees or others employed by the district. So with that, is there anybody who wants to address the school board? All right, we will move on then to reports and news. We will start with board committee reports.
Mid-state, we had a very informative meeting. They're really looking forward to their new school year already. They're getting quite a few students coming in, believe it or not. That's kind of different mid-year, but it's happening. They also had a lovely little goodbye for me and Mr. Thomas, was it? Is that his last name? I'm not sure.
Oh, from Upsala?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, nice guy, but anyhow, yeah, so that was really fun, just to say goodbye to a lot of people that we got to meet and know. And really, it was a good experience with Mid-State too, it really is. I highly recommend somebody get on that committee, because you'll learn a lot.
Policy, did you guys meet?
We did not mean.
Finance committee did meet today. Maybe it's just part of the finance, I don't know, there's a committee. We did meet, we got to see a lot of what Scott and Dave and Christine talked about tonight. Just kind of getting ready for that, and like you said, using your decoder ring where you were in the 3 areas of the budget. So again, I think we're very happy. I think we're still happy with our ADMs continuing to stay fairly close to where we were, so that's really good news, so. All right, anything, I think that's the 3 committees, so we will go to 7B, superintendent report.
So, we've been having lots of dress up days, as we get ready for the break and the holiday, and we had the littles in singing yesterday, and they were so cute. I don't know if you saw the Facebook and put on there, but they're really fun. As you know, we have been dealing with inclement weather, and last week we ended up with a snow day, and then we're able to utilize one of the e-learning days. And I did go around to the different classrooms, and I talked with teachers and students and principals, and have gotten very, very favorable responses. One student said, e-learning days are the bomb, can we do them every day? No. Another student said, they're okay, but I don't mind having just the, the snow day. Why do I have to do so much? So you get a little bit of everything. I even got asked by, one of the Blazinka boys, what happens if we should have an e-learning day tomorrow? We're gonna fall on the ice and break our leg. And I said, wear proper shoes. That's some of the feedback we got. Well, as you know, we're approaching another inclement weather, tomorrow. I've been on the webinars with the National Weather Service and dealing with, I work closely with a meteorologist that's married to one of our staff, who's very, very helpful. I don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring us other than snow. We just don't know how that looks. So it's very possible. I'm really hoping we get to start off coming to school potential that we'll have to leave early. We don't know, I don't know anything for sure, but the minute I know, I try to get that out. And then, we talked a lot, the leadership and myself, about trying the e-learning option. And one thing about e-learning is you have to take attendance. We generally have with our e-learning days that they turn in assignments, and that's how we know that they've attended. And they usually have until midnight that night, especially at the secondary, where credit bearing coursework is quite important and you have to meet certain requirements. We just didn't feel with a holiday coming up, that was gonna work. So we will not have an e-learning day on Thursday. However, I am gonna meet with the leadership teams at our district leadership team meeting and talk about next year. This is our only long time of a break where it's 12 days away from school. Otherwise, we may have a 4-day weekend here and there, something like that. So we will be talking with leadership and saying, next year, if we were to run up against this long break, if we were to do an e-learning day, what could that look like? That we could ensure that we might be able to utilize it, but yet ensure that we have compliance with MDE requirements and attendance and such. So we'll see where that goes. I can tell you.
Does it all have to be within like 1 24 hour?
No, it doesn't, but do we want it to go 12 days? I mean, we have to talk about that. What does that look like? How, cause that makes you a little nervous, and we would not send home technology devices with our young ones for that 12-day period either. So it have to be a packet type situation, and so we just gotta talk through what could that look like in our future if we're gonna try to do that. We only get 5 of these e-learning days. We've utilized 1, we have 4 left. I mean, this is, hopefully we'll have a much better luck January through April. Who knows with snow? I can tell you, I've been in contact with other districts that don't have e-learning days, and I'm glad we're not in that situation, because they're looking at a lot of days already, not even hitting January, so. That's,
Well, that's all you can do is try to figure out what worked good.
yeah, right, and then just get
Made
better.
it better, yeah, it's.
But we did have robust assignments, and it was, I talked to one first grade teacher who has a kindergarten student of her own and a first grade student of her own, and she's a first grade teacher. And she talked about what a great experience it was to watch what her kindergartner's assignment was, because she's like, I brought it back to the first grade team and said, hey, we might want to consider adding something, whatever one exercise was, to our group. So that whole idea of how do we learn from all this, everybody was really positive and upbeat about that, so that's exciting. We'll just keep getting better. That's how I look at it, so continuous improvement. That's all right.
I appreciated, I thought you communicating what you knew. I think late in today, I don't know if all board members saw you, you did send out an email communication, just letting people know, here's what we're thinking, so I think that was good. I think the more advanced notice we can give parents, obviously the better, so I appreciated that.
Just so you know, I don't envy your responsibility.
Not-
I always knew it'd be some noise. He's like, I can't win.
Yeah, if you wanna freak Dr. Werkamp, I'll just tell her, hey, we were in their finance meeting and I told her there was already snowing out, and I was kind of meaning it for our finance guys coming, it's not snowing. Not thinking that, you know, Christine was more sensitive to it.
These guys in a hotel room St. Cloud out.
So on that note, I appreciate that.
Um,
Anything else for Dr. Werkamp? All right, we will go to the business manager report.
Here it is.
Scott Ryan
Got it.
to present.
Chair here.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Thank
members of
you.
The board, Superintendent Werkamp, I am Scott Moran, looks like Marine. So we're gonna take a look at the budget report. So first of all, enrollment, so we based the budget off of 920 ADMs as of 11/17/2022. Our enrollment's at 955. We had talked about this in the finance committee today, that we adjusted the ADMs to 938 to still be conservative with our budget. But to recognize that revenue for the rest of the year. I always want to do throw out the disclaimer here that if Dr. Werkamp talks about ADMs in her report, that it may differ just on the timing of when I take that number or when she takes that number, or Dave in this particular instance. Next slide, please.
Scott, did we start at 9:59 or has that, okay, I say that's gone down a little. Okay,
And we anticipate it potentially again before the end of the year.
yeah, I think Joel has talked about how that kind of fluctuates as well with especially in the senior high, right, you have kids going on to, you know,
The alternative.
yeah, post-secondary and things like that. Okay.
Alright, so, just a quick look at the revenues through November 30, we're up 179, I can't quite read that number. Like 179,000, I believe it says, 170, thank you. You have young guys over there. 170,000 from the same time last year, that's to be expected with the biennium increase. And then the received year-to-date column. Next slide, please. So expenditures, this is a little bit surprising to me, but I've seen this across other districts as well. So 52,000, we are behind pace of FY 22. But again, as I remember from the Truth and Taxation Report, talked about the CARES funding and how we had to use that up and spend that down. So across districts, I'm seeing a lot of districts being underspent compared to last year due to that reason. Next slide, please. All right, so we're gonna take a look at some of our restricted funds, so operating capital, so FY 22, we began with 472,000. And then revenues came in at 214, and we expensed just about the same, 215,000. Carryover beginning of FY 23 balance 307,000. So we're talking about this just for a second. This is where we come together as a group. Dr. Weir Camp will bring us all in as an administrative team and talk about the capital need, and then she'll approve those as a needed basis. But I think this also came from Joel and Phil, where they talked about they want to get back together as a group, because then once they go out to the public, they can say why we're doing this for the elementary, not so much the high school, but they're on the list of things to come. So next slide, please. LTFM, so beginning balance 160,000, revenues came in at 187, and then expenses went out of 281 with a carryover balance of 67,000 going into FY 23. Food service, so again, with that SFSP or the summer food service program, we saw an influx of revenues due to the increased reimbursement on each meal that we served. So that we started the beginning year at 60,000, brought revenues in at 740 and expense at 628. We did have some expenses go to the kitchen remodel, 43,000. So we have a carryover balance of 129,000. One thing that I mentioned the finance committee today too is that normally MDE you have 3 months of your expenditure average to spend that down. They did extend that out to 6 months because a lot of districts are seeing a large increase on that, but we did a great job in Royalton during the year, knowing that that was going to happen, to expend some of those remodels to fund too. So we're not in the same boat as a lot of districts where they have to spend that down, which our monthly average is 66,000, I believe is what we said today. All right, next slide, please. All right, so the HVAC project. Excuse me, so the funding sources for the LTFM project and what we have remaining, as you can see there, we have 28,000, and I'm gonna call on Dave here just for a second. If you can, please just stand up and then reflect on the news that we got in that meeting today.
Right, so Tony DeVault today said we have one more payment to go to Climate Air for $2,500. So that $28,000 you see there, if we take away the contingency that we have factored in, that would be then $18,000 of a balance remaining minus the 2,500. That means we have $15,500 to the good at the close of the project.
That's great.
So fantastic news there. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. So last slide. Thank you. I missed my Bueller slide here, but more professional this way. I like it. Any questions?
So we're still anticipating, I just verified again too with Tony that February is still our date on finishing that elementary school kitchen remodel. We just can't get, it won't be any sooner. We're still on that wait of that corner. So hopefully it won't extend past February. So it's nice to come in lower. It is nice to be able to use fund too to offset some of those costs of the kitchen remodel. And then the HVAC to not come in as high is pretty amazing, I think, too, especially with what we're dealing with inflationary costs and such.
Would be really nice if they could get a couple months in the kitchen there, so if there's something that they needed to tweak, or they could
Do it now.
do it over the summer and, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
Yes, no problem. And one last thing, sorry, so just Chair Gerards and Director Lang, I just want to say my appreciation. Thank you both for everything that you guys have done for the board and volunteering your time. Great, very grateful, and then hopefully you get that from the community and the students as well, so thank you.
Nice meeting you too.
Thank you. So with that, we will move to 7D, the principal reports.
Good evening again. And I attended a workshop on childhood trauma and really good information. One of the things we got with it was a rubric where you could self-assess how you're doing as a school as far as supporting students who've had those kinds of concerns. So that's been helpful. And then just looking at our school, elementary and middle school, high school, and the services that we do have in place, which includes social worker, mental health worker, behavior interventionist now, and even an EBD teacher, if you can believe there was a time we didn't even have an EBD teacher. And the processes that are in place, we're really done a lot as a district, and looking at that rubric, we're in good shape. So that was very worthwhile, raised awareness, and just made you more in touch with what some of the kids have gone through in their lives before they even get to school. Our January 16th in service is coming up. We're going to continue to work on our English language arts integration of standards. And if you go to the website under elementary and ELA standards, a lot of those things are black. Dr. Werkamp pointed out to me, hey, many of them are blue. So when they're black, they're not live, they're not done. I think just about every item, but about 3 or so is blue. So if you get a chance to go on there, it's the proficiency scales they've completed. So we're going to continue working on that, assess how well we've done those, figuring out how to use those every day in the classroom, and then move on to building assessments to support proficiency skills. So excited about that. And then I wanted to recognize our parents. Going back a little bit, the parent-teacher conferences in November, the percentage was 97%. We had 12 classrooms of 100%. So it really shows the engagement and support there is for the school district. Thank you to the PTO for their breakfast with Santa. The American Education Week went really well, and our biggest problem was the number of people who came to it. So figuring out how to fit them into the schedule and finding places to sit to eat. So again, great support. And I might have mentioned it, but just to our teachers, support to them. We have 5 student teachers in our building this year. So for them to make that extra effort to include those people and the fresh ideas that they bring, and other people to work as a team. So just that openness from the teachers to do that. So I think as we head into Christmas break, we're doing, I think, really well. Good attitudes, good cooperation, and a real focus on the needs of the students. So that's what we want.
Any questions for Dr. Gabata?
No, that's all right.
And also same with Mary and Russ. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chairman Garrett's, members of the board, Superintendent Werkamp, our e-learning day, as Superintendent Werkamp reported in her report, one of the things we did, fear of going into the first time, is just what kind of activities are students going to be responsible for in the e-learning day. I was hoping you don't see like Christmas crosswords and things like that. So I asked teachers, sent out a Google form for them to provide their lesson plans for each of the periods during the e-learning day. And when I went through them, I was very excited to see that the learning was focused on the current things that they were working on in class. They were advancing the learning. Instead of pausing it and doing something different and then coming back, they were advancing what they were working on through what they had been currently working on in class. Even in classes like band, it's very hard you cannot have a band practice on an e-learning day. But they had, Mr. Kopikas had an activity where they were learning the notes, and had a note activity that they did online together. And I was very excited to see the ideas that went into. The e-learning day. If you would have asked me when we were. Pre-COVID, the naughty word. If you'd asked about an e-learning day, my response to an e-learning day was, why in God's name would anyone want to do that and put in the amount of work to make that happen? And after that, with distance learning and hybrid learning and all that stuff. E-learning day was like, okay, well, we can make this work. And so it does also show the proficiency of teachers through that experience that they went through. That the e-learning day went from Mount Everest to an anthill. I mean, it was, yep, we can do this, and they pull it together and make it work. So I would like to compliment the teachers on their efforts for making that e-learning day a success. Our attendance for the e-learning day, we were just looking at it today, was roughly the same as what it would have been on a regular student day. So, and then I'd just like to thank Ms. Lang and Mr. Garrett's for their service to the board. So, questions?
One comment. As we get further away from COVID, and God help us if we never have that again or whatever. The young teachers that are, the new teachers that'll be coming in won't have that baptism by fire, although they may get some schooling that the other ones didn't. You know, we've gotta somehow be able to teach them how to. That those lessons don't get lost as we turn faculty over.
Yeah, the beautiful aspect of technology is it's the one, we're in a profession where. You know, like if I'm gonna go in and have surgery on something, I want the doctor who's done it. You know, who's ran all the technology and the machines. Yeah, not the guy who just got his papers.
Yeah.
In education, it runs a bit of a reverse, is that when I was teaching 13 years ago, I was still using an overhead. You don't even, there's not even an overhead in this, I think there was one antique running around, you know, that was still floating around. So the teachers that come in newly trained tend to have a much better grasp on grabbing those technologies and making use of flipping a classroom and doing a video and having the students access the video at home in the evening. And they have those technology expertise that some of the dinosaurs, they actually are learning from the new teachers that come in, which is a benefit to this, that we raise the efficacy of the older teacher, the overall teacher group, which will also help those young teachers when they come in.
I'm also hoping our strategic plan helps keep that at the forefront, because if you think about some of the areas of our strategic plan is how we're utilizing technology, right? Some of the multiple platforms and the desire to make sure parents know how to use them, and do we need all of them? And so that whole piece around how we do all this, I think our strategic plan will help us make sure we don't fall into a lapse of some teachers are doing it and some aren't, or something.
It's experience, as we go further away, they're not gonna have the experience levels, even you're not doing it all the time, so it's like this first E-day. If we end up going and having 5 E-days, by the 5th E-day, everybody's gonna be doing a better job at it than what they did the first day.
The other positive aspect of the experience that the staff has is that they've taken the best pieces of those hybrid and distance learning tools that they learned that they necessarily wouldn't have done otherwise, and have made it a part of their everyday practice too. So, which also helps keep it fresh. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to item 8, consent agenda approval. Consent agenda includes approval of the regular board minutes from November 28th, claims accounts and financials, and new hires.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion was made by Director Bauman and seconded by Director Lane. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries 6-0. Moving into 9A, we will get an update on the strategic plan.
Okay, so as you know, you approved the strategic plan and then we conducted an after action review with the committee. And I was not, of course, able to be there that night, as you know, because I was on bereavement leave. However, our team just went ahead and conducted that meeting and I think it went very, very well. So go to the next slide, please. They met on November 30th and we had about 8 to 10 people attend. And in that work that night was the after action review. One thing I can tell you is our members, our overall committee membership is quite large. I believe it's over 60 people. We have seen over the course of this process of the strategic planning work that different members come to different meetings and we have not had a lot of consistent attendance necessarily by the same people or the same number for that matter. So some meetings were larger than others. Next slide. So what went well? That was a question. And they worked at their table because we had that number of people. They had one table. They didn't have multiple tables. They felt that the committee's expectations were met. What they were hoping to get out of this, they felt they did. They did feel, and I think this is important when you think about community members as a committee, they said they were able to pick things up quickly, even if they missed a prior meeting. So they were able to come back. And I think partly that's because we always recapped what had happened in the past. And we always had available the white papers or wherever the notes were that anybody could reference at any given time. So I think that's important for us to remember as we move forward with these meetings is to continually recap where we've been briefly, so we can keep people up to speed. They were very appreciative that we have now created a living document, that this strategic plan is a roadmap, but we can make adjustments and changes and throughout the course of its life. And they appreciated the World Cafe model. They felt like everyone got to attend. And I do want to thank again our staff, because we had different staff people at different tables helping to facilitate those conversations to ensure that all voices were heard. And I think that's really important that we remember that too, as we move forward with the committee, that however we run these, we ensure that people are feeling engaged and get their voices heard. As we continue, what else? Survey engaged non-members in the work. So we surveyed everyone, as you know, a couple of, at least once, and which allowed for people who didn't necessarily want to participate in the committee still have voice. Sorry, we're getting school information. St. Cloud's closing 2 hours early.
So far.
I'm not making that announcement yet. Okay. Student voice, they appreciated having students there. And that's something we'll have to think about too. How do we do this in our future to ensure we still have students there? And because that can be challenging with schedules, because when we're in this regular school year, students are involved in so many activities, but we'll just have to consider that and figure it out. They appreciated the consolidation of ideas. They felt things were where they were able to save time. So what would happen is we would have these committee meetings, we have all this information on all these different white pages, and then the team would come back and synthesize this information and then bring it back. So they didn't have to do that work as a committee. We had us behind the scenes doing that and coming back to the committee with information. But again, always having those white papers available. So if they thought we missed something, like, how come you didn't include this? I remember this. They could go back and look and bring it to our attention if they thought that was necessary.
So then you did that as a leadership team?
Right, what would happen is Michelle and I would do the initial synthesizing, bring in the leadership team to further look at that and then talk through that PowerPoint.
So by doing it that way, did the leadership team then have conversations they wouldn't have had otherwise?
I do believe so, especially when we talked about, well, I think we're doing this, would be a conversation. Well, the community doesn't know we're doing it. Or maybe we're not doing it deep enough, or maybe it's not, we think we're doing it, but that's not really what maybe the language isn't the same.
Yep.
What they are saying isn't what, we're not interpreting it correctly. So those conversations were very helpful.
Nice.
What could be improved and how? And I said that was interesting. Really, the only thing that they wanted improved was a more consistent involvement from community committee members, because our staff was pretty good. But they were unsure of how to improve that attendance. And honestly, I don't have that solution yet either. I'm just not sure how we do that.
Do it by gunfight.
Start writing.
Oh, my goodness, have to get some sort of carrots, what can I have?
Something free.
Right, something free, come and get, well, we tried, we had cookies, that didn't work, we had granola bars, that didn't work, so I don't know.
That's true.
So what we asked them too, how do they see their role and what do they kind of want from this? And how this committee saw themselves was their role is to provide support, to provide oversight, to make adjustments, to act as stakeholders, to analyze information, and to provide feedback. Next slide. And then, so we asked, like, how often should we meet? How should this committee conduct itself moving forward? And what they said was, the committee should meet 2 times per year. And they want the superintendent to report to the board quarterly. And then the district leadership team will review the plan monthly. Is there another slide? Yes. Communication. They like that the plan lives on the website, so you can go there and see it at any point in time. Again, they like that if you communicate at the board meetings quarterly, the public sees that, those board meetings are taped, so they're gonna be able to get that information there as well. To always discuss it in the Royal Review, and make sure we link to it in the Royal Review. To email the document to committee members, so basically saying, here's what we presented at the board meeting, just keeping you informed of this is where we're at, ask any questions. And then ensuring that principals communicate with staff after those quarterly reports to the board as well. And that, what I envision there is, again, it's not just the district leadership team that's responsible for this, it's all of us. So through those staff meetings, the staff's gonna be able to have opportunity to give input to this and what they'd like to see and ideas that they might have and all of that. So, which then in turn will help us to make another loop then back, so they can give that. At those meetings, it comes back to the district leadership team as a whole. We talk about that, it comes back to the committee, it can come back to the board. So we just kind of keep looping through all those communications. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, I will say, my superintendent goal was to review that with the board monthly. So I thought when we talk about the evaluation closed session, we can revisit that feedback from the committee and the board can discuss that if they want to just keep it at the monthly, or if they'd like to go with the committee's suggestion of quarterly.
Questions for Dr. Werkamp on the strategic plan or anything she presented?
Well, it looks like it's very well thought out, and the people that are involved are truly invested. Those are the things we were looking for, so it's good, it's good. Good deal.
Okay, we will move to item 9B, approval of the final levy. So in front of me, I do have extracted the minutes from the previous that talk about, if you remember one of the slides that Scott had where it showed the maintenance, the general fund, how much the community service, debt service, and total proposed tax levy. I do need a member to introduce the levy. The resolution.
It's a resolution.
Yes.
I'll move it.
I would second it and waive the reading.
Are you sure?
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. You're a nicer person than I am.
I mean, Randy, after the meeting, I would be more than happy to meet with you.
I'd like to mangle these words later.
Yes, yes, yes. So with that, I believe everybody, all directors have seen that, and with Director Bauman seconding it and also asking me not to have to read that. I think we can go right to Ryan then and do a roll call vote.
Director Bauman,
Aye.
Director Garretts,
Aye.
Director Hackett,
Aye.
Director Hofstad, aye, Director Lang,
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Aye.
So with that, the resolution passes 6-0. Perfect, thank you. So then we jump to 9C, which is one of the amended item is the resolution establishing combined polling places. I don't know, Christine, do you want to talk a little about this?
Yeah, so, all this is doing is allowing for, if we were to have a board member that maybe no longer could be on the board, say they moved out of the district residence, or they had an illness, or just wanted to be done. We would, in the statute changed, law changed 7 years ago, we would have to go out for election to replace them. We can't just fill the vacancy. So in order to have if we do the combined polling places, we can require the voters to go to one location, which will save us substantial amount of money, because if we have all polling locations open in all of the various counties that affect us, we'd have to have at least 3 staff persons and staffed for each one of those, and the school district pays for that in completion. As you know, we're on the same calendar as what our local and state and federal election system is on, and so we just share in all of that when it comes to the polling. This would be for that situation that may arise. So this isn't saying this, we're gonna have any voting. It just says if we need one, we can have the combined polling place.
So, and also to be clear, so if we would, do we not have one of these? That says that what we would do, or do we have to do this every year to do a combined polling place, or?
Yeah, to my understanding is we would do it after every series of election.
Okay,
is my
okay, to
understanding.
clarify.
But
and-
I can always double check with them.
No, and that's okay, and then the second one is right, so for a board member, if they're over 2 years remaining, then you need to go in front of. You need the election, but if it's under 2 years, you can appoint somebody, correct, or is that
That's-
changed?
That's not what my understanding was. My understanding was regardless, we're supposed to go to election, and that's what I sat in on the organizational meeting webinar with MSBA, and that's how I understood it. I can go back and ask for sure if that time frame means a difference, and what I think what this does is cover us regardless.
Right.
And so if we were
absolutely.
to run into a situation, we would definitely go back and ask and say, how do we make sure we do this legally? Yeah.
So the language is just for special election. It's
Yeah.
not.
It's not, and this is like also, let's say, which we're not going to do, but if we had to go out for a bond referendum and we're gonna do it on an off year. This too would allow us to have that election and only have one polling place and not incur those costs. Of multiple locations.
So since this is a resolution, do I need somebody to introduce it? And this one, I think. We talked about potentially reading this one,
Yeah, because you added it to the agenda, so I think it's probably a good idea.
should probably have me read the last one, but this one's much longer. So does anybody want to introduce?
Finer print.
Yeah.
For motion to approve.
Okay, Director Baum. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. So, be it resolved by School Board of Independent School District, 485, State of Minnesota as follows, pursuant to Minnesota statute section 205A.11. The precincts and polling places for school district elections are those precincts or parts of precincts located within the boundaries of the school district, which have been established by the cities or towns located in whole or in part within the school district. The board hereby confirms that those precincts and polling places so established by those municipalities. Section 2, pursuant to Minnesota statute section 205A.11, the board may establish a combined polling place for several precincts for school district elections not held on the day of the statewide election. Each combined polling place must be a polling place that has been designated for use as a polling place by county or municipality. The following combined polling places are established to serve the precincts specified for all school district special and general elections not held on the same day as the statewide election in the calendar year following the adoption of the resolution. Combined polling place, Royalton City Center, 12 Birch Street North, Royalton, Minnesota, 56373. This combined polling place serves all territories in Independent School District 485, located in Bellevue Township, Buckman Township, Morrill Township, Swan River Township, Two Rivers, Morrison County, Langola Township, Graham Township, Benton County, Minnesota, Brockway Township, Stearns County, Minnesota, City of Royalton, and the City of Bolas, Morrison County, Minnesota. Pursuant to Minnesota statutes 205.09, the polling places will remain open for voting for district elections not held on the same day as the statewide election between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Number 4, the clerk is directed to file a certified copy of this resolution with the county auditors for each of the counties in which the school district is located in whole or in part within 30 days after its adoption. Number 5, as required by Minnesota statute section 204B.16 subdivision 1A, the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to give written notice of polling place locations to each affected household with at least one registered voter in the school district whose school district polling place location has been changed. The notice must be a non-forwardable notice mailed at least 25 days before the date of the first election to which it will apply. A notice that is returned as undeliverable must be forwarded immediately to the appropriate county auditor, who shall change the registrant status to challenge in the statewide registration system. If a combined polling place is changed, the change must be adopted at least 90 days prior to the first election, where it will be used unless the polling place has become unavailable for use. Note, a resolution similar to this model resolution must be adopted by December 31st each year, and the combined polling places specified shall be combined polling places for the following calendar year. It is each year, yeah, right. Does anybody have any questions or need me to read that again? So with that, I will ask Ryan to do a roll call.
Director Bowman.
Aye.
Director Garretts.
Aye.
Director Hackett.
Aye.
Director Hofstad. Aye. Director Lang.
Aye.
Director Roaring.
Aye.
Resolution passes 6-0-0. All right, we will move on to 9D, outgoing board members. I guess recognition and goodbye.
Go ahead, Rosie. Flags.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Director Lane, you wanna start? You
Oh,
wanna?
I'd love to. First of all, congratulations to Director Hackett for being reelected, to Lucas Boyd and to Ms. Trout, because they're going to be the new blood now, so it'll be interesting game. I have to say that I have appreciated and learned so much from you, all of you. You bring such gifts to the table. And I said that once a long time ago, that we each bring different gifts to the table. And I can only hope that with these new folks coming in, that they will be bringing some really good things to our district. But like I always say, we're here for the kids and the taxpayers. And please always remember that, because I'm kind of a big taxpayer. I get a little antsy, but no, I really appreciate working with all of you, with Dr. Werkamp. I just thought, wow, I'm so proud of you and all the growth that I've seen in you in the last year. It's unbelievable. I'm very proud of Mr. Hackett because he understands so many things. But I seem to kind of once in a while, but to our chair, Mr. Gerards, and certainly to Tyra with all the gifts she brings and all the experience, and having a teacher in your pocket isn't a bad thing. And Angela, to you, your softness, your gentleness, but your stick-to-itiveness, and you are not going to take any prisoners. And then that leads me to Brian. And he
Does
won't
take
take any prisoners because he's still got his uniform. Anyhow, I do appreciate all of you so very much, and thank you for allowing me to be here and to accept even an old bag like me on this board. I do appreciate all of you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not have, I'm not as equipped to give such a memorable goodbye as Mary did, so I just, I had a lot of fun. I learned a ton. It was a great board. I learned a lot through COVID and, that was, something unexpected and hiring a new superintendent. I mean, 4 years seems like a long time, but it really, really went fast. So, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun, learned a lot. So, thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
As a superintendent, I would like to thank both of you for your time and service and for being so welcoming for me as a new superintendent, new to the community. You will be missed. This is a great board, but we'll bring on our new members and go with that. And I just want to wish you the best. Please come see our kids and things and support us and be involved. We'll take anything you can give us. Want to still be on that strategic planning committee? We'd love to have you. So thank you again. I do appreciate it because I know it's a lot of time and it's oftentimes thankless. So hear from me, I'm thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We gotta get a picture because they have to.
Oh,
use their plaques.
Oh, come on.
We have to.
With just them or with everybody?
No. Staff takes.
Number 10.
I always try.
You don't let your dentist see the picture. With the black.
Yeah, you gotta be able to.
That was pretty ingenious.
Okay, hold on, take one with just the two of us. Don't have.
Come on.
All right.
Great.
I like each other.
One last time.
Yeah, there you go. Don't tell.
Yeah.
Thank you for the plaque, by the way.
Yeah.
It's very nice. I had a drawer full of them, but thank you.
So we will go to item number 10, upcoming meeting schedule. Well, this was from last week, because I say Wednesday, December 14th, that's already taken place.
That was great.
The best meeting.
We also had our Tuesday finance meeting, but we wouldn't have our January organizational meeting. Do we know when that is gonna
We
be?
have to schedule that.
Schedule.
Oh,
So. Normally, I believe we do it the first week, so we
There's
can get it.
statute on it, what it has to be.
Well, they
it's a
take
date
it,
week, right?
yep, they take effect the first day in January after the holiday. Now, January 2nd is this holiday, so we could not have the meeting then. So we could have the meeting on the 3rd. I think we could put it out the following week too, if we needed to, if you wanted to stay to a Monday, but it's up to you all. We could do the Tuesday if you wanted to, then we can schedule our regular meetings at that point, because that gives us enough time to schedule it.
Lucas, do you have a day?
Monday, Tuesday, one's fine.
Probably Tuesday,
We can on Monday, the 2nd one.
Right.
It's a
That's a
holiday.
holiday.
Yep,
January 3rd.
But
That's a
January
holiday.
I would say they're just.
Okay,
So it'll be January 3rd at what time? 6?
Yeah.
And then at that point, you'll also establish when you have your meetings.
right, that's when we will establish the meeting calendar, the committee membership, the officers, you will elect officers. We'll make sure we just approve again, our law firm that we go ahead and use, and then I'll look through the last one, see if there's all the committee meetings, including again, like mid-state board, and then our negotiation committees, and get those established as well.
We'll update signers probably.
And we'll have to
Find out
update
positions.
signers.
So you have to be very clear.
Michelle, let's do that. Oh my goodness, January 3rd,
Do we wanna do it that day?
I can do it. Oh. I don't know if I can get ready for it that quickly,
I was gonna say,
because we're on.
I didn't know if I should raise my hand.
Good job, Michelle.
Look at it.
We go out to the 9th of January. Would that be,
Usually we get
because
a
that
little
gives us time
time.
to prep,
Yeah,
So that'd be the following week,
yeah,
following Monday.
January the 9th.
Whatever.
So January 9th, 6 p.m. Anybody?
Another option I can just throw out there is we could do that week if we did like Thursday, but it's kind of a weird day. Yeah, Monday works. Fine, for me. It's up Monday
I will be remote.
on the ninth. You'll just-
Will you be
Oh, you
here
don't have to give us your location. It's because of military.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah, I'll be gone that whole week.
okay, but you could join us through that. Okay, so Michelle will just have him join remotely. So the ninth then,
Yes, January 9th, 6 p.m. here.
right here.
It is open to the public, right?
Yeah,
All meetings are.
it's not a closed session.
Who needs to communicate that to new board members? I know we have
Yeah,
one.
they need
I'll
to.
do that.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll make another one.
Make email addresses first.
Yeah,
Because we have those, so
Tyra will be leading it.
until the elections occur and however then that plays out. I forgot to put the language in about the closed session. Isn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
the
okay.
whole-
Yep, we're good, okay.
make a motion to.
So the motion, so that's our organizational meeting will be January 9th, 6 p.m. And then I heard Director Lang make a motion to close the open meeting for superintendent evaluation as permitted by Minnesota statute, section 13D.05. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Director Lang, seconded by Director Bauman. Any discussion? All those in favor of closing the meeting at 7:33, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained,